All right, I'm Tim Carter, W3ATB, and I want to talk a little bit tonight about national parks on the air. And who in the room, I know I've brought it up before about a couple of times, who has heard of it and who has, but better yet, who's not heard of it? Who has not heard of national parks on the air? Okay, all right. Is anybody in the room participating in it, either as an activator or a chaser?
Yep.
All right, so really just the three of us. Are you doing anything, John? Are you on the air chasing or?
No.
Okay, all right. So only three of us. All right, so I'm going to try tonight to motivate you via what has happened to me over the past 3 weeks to potentially give this event a really hard look. And here's what it is. So this year, and it actually is this month, August 25th, is the 100th anniversary of the National Park Service. So last year, the ARRL got together with the National Park Service, and they came up with an event called National Parks on the Air to help the national park celebrate the anniversary and to bring more awareness of the national parks via the amateur radio community. Really good idea. And this event, they modeled it a lot after SOTA, so Summits on the Air. I'm sure people in the room here know all about Summits on the Air. And the way that the National Parks in the Air event works, almost identical. There's activators and there are chasers. But with Summits on the Air, any of you who have tried to activate a summit know that it's a lot of work. I mean, it can be a lot of work. And if you have some physical challenges, you're not going to be an activator probably. I mean, for the most part. I mean, there are people who can do it, but it just makes it more difficult.
Oh, come on, you don't think I could get my scooter up a mountain?
I don't know, Adam. I don't know, man.
Cadillac mountain, no problem.
Yeah. So anyway, they designed national parks on the air. They were ingenious, in my opinion. They said, all you have to do to activate one of the national park units. Now, understand, we have, I don't know how many national parks we have. No, that's properties. In other words, we don't have any national parks in New Hampshire. But we have Acadia National Park in Maine. But we do have 3 National Park Service properties in New Hampshire. We have St. Gaudens, up near Lebanon, just south of Lebanon along the Connecticut River. We've got the Lamprey Wild Scenic River, which is down in the southern part of the state. And we've got the Appalachian Trail, which crosses New Hampshire. That's a National Park Service property. But to Frank's point, there are 420 something units that they're called, spread throughout the 50 states and even down in the Virgin Islands and the Dry Tortugas, that people can go to with radio equipment, turn on the radio equipment, and if they contact 10 other operators, they have officially activated that unit. Okay, so SOTA, you only have to do 4, right, Cliff? 4 for SOTA? Yeah, so National Parks in the Air is 10. Well, I just thought at first, wow, that could be pretty hard to do, until we did our first one back in February. We had this very mild winter here in New Hampshire, and Dave Benson is a club member here. He's never come to a meeting. He lives about 50, 60 miles to the west of us, K1SWL. If you know anything about QRP radio, he's the founder of Small Wonders Lab. And Jim Cluett, W1PID, the 3 of us decided, wow, let's go activate St. Gaudens. So we all drove there. We took my utility trailer. I had some little propane heaters. We didn't asphyxiate ourselves. And we set up inside this trailer on a 42-degree day, and I had never before been in the presence of a pileup, and I was just blown away because Jim Cluett spotted himself. And this is a fun activity. It's not like some of these intense contests where you are not allowed to self-spot. You are allowed to spot yourself on the cluster. Jim spotted it, and within 30 seconds, it's like a plague of locusts descended upon the trailer and were clawing and scratching at Jim and Dave Benson. They couldn't do it fast enough. And to make a long story short, in just oh, I don't know, 90 minutes, we did like 84 QSOs, which I had never seen anything like that happen in my life. Now, granted, this was all CW, but I was just astounded. I was just like, I couldn't understand how they could even pull the call signs out of the pileup. So, but I was hooked. I thought, you know what, this is very cool. This is cool. Now understand, there are thousands of operators just like you who are sitting in the comfort of their home or in their screened-in porch, and they don't have to go out and do what we're doing, there's activators, and Frank's activated some, on his trip up here this spring, and they're having a blast. I mean, the chasers are sitting at home, and I don't know, they might knock out 10 units a day. 15, because there's activations happening all over the United States every day, and it's a lot of fun. So, fast forward. We then go back in March and activate St. Gaudens again. Weather was a little nicer. That time, we decided to do single sideband, and I have to tell you, it made a huge difference. What I learned from that experience that day is that there are many, many, many more people who are chasing being single sideband than Morse code or CW. Okay, so you want to keep single sideband, as part of one of your tools if you're going to go out and do one of these activations. I then Frank and Frank Martin, we went up to St. Gaudens again, in June, right? In June. And we activated it again. And it was a beautiful day. It's just that there was a school group there eating lunch with us, and then the lawnmower guy was cutting the grass. So you just don't know what's going to happen.
We expected goats to walk by.
Yeah. We thought the goats were going to come next. It's like, what else could possibly go wrong? So anyway, it was a fun time. Every single time we had fun. Back in the spring, I was part of the planning committee to plan my 50th grade school reunion. Yes, I'm that old. And it was going to be in Cincinnati. And I was going to drive there. I just thought, and I needed a break. I worked my butt off all winter long in spring. And Kathy, my wife, said, go have a blast. Take as much time off as you want. I don't care. So I look at the map and I went, you know what? There are a lot of, if I do this route like this, I can activate 8 places in 10 days. Because I decided I was going to be gone 10 days. And that's what I did. I did 8 activations in 10 days. It was an aggressive schedule. So here's my schedule. Here's what I did. I left here on July 11th and drove 9 hours straight to Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, and activated Gettysburg. And I was dead tired. I was so tired. But I found this, and who's been to Gettysburg? And you've done that drive. You know how you go down that Confederate Avenue, that whole ridge line where the Confederate Army was? Well, if you go all the way down, right to the end, just before it starts to go down to Devil's Den, there's a picnic area on the right-hand side. And I'm one of the guys that tends to, I ask for forgiveness rather than permission. So I just decided, because of what Jim Kluwitz taught me about stealth radio operation, you don't even know that I'm doing the radio. I'm just like sitting at a park bench. You don't even know what's going on. So I go into this picnic area, throw up my antenna. I'm on the air in 10 minutes, and I make 17 contacts. They were all CW. And so then I went to the hotel and crashed and got something to eat, and I was out for the count. I had to get up at 5 in the morning the next day because I had been dreaming of going to the next location for the past 15 years. I had always wanted to go to the Flight 93 Memorial in Shanksville, Pennsylvania. It has a very special meaning to me. And so I was able to get permission. It's considered an ultra-sensitive site by the ARRL. And the reason why is some of the people that go do these activations, and everybody's different. I'm not saying my way's right or their way's wrong. It can be a production, meaning they'll set up a shelter. They'll have a big tripod with a monster antenna. They may have a generator going. It's a big deal. It's kind of like field day. Well, at Flight 93, no. You have to understand that Flight 93 is both a battleground and it's a burial ground. And it's a very solemn place, the people that are there. And the last thing you want to do is set up radio equipment down near the Memorial Plaza or even up at the Visitor Center. So I had scoped out a really neat place about 1.5 miles away from the Visitor Center, this little turnout. And I got permission to set up there. I got there in the morning at about 8 o'clock in the morning, and there was nobody in the park. There were just 4 motorcycle people, and it was a very emotional thing being down at the Memorial Plaza. If you've not been there, I highly recommend you go, and I recommend that you go there. The park ground is open sunrise to sunset, and I highly recommend you get there just after sunrise and go down to the Memorial Plaza, and you'll probably be alone. And I'm not going to tell you about it. I'm not going to tell you what it looks like because it's absolutely gorgeous what was done there. So, Flight 93 though, I get on the air. 90 minutes later, I had 48 QSOs. I had never in my life done that before. I had a pretty significant pileup. And Jim Cluett was my first contact that morning. I had texted him. He put me on the cluster, and that's very important. If you want to get a successful activation in national parks in the air, it's really important to get spotted. And he was able to listen to the entire, it's just like he was standing back, but he could hear everything. Well, he couldn't hear all of the chasers getting me, but he could hear a lot. And he said it was exciting, for him to do it. Well, I untangled the pileup, and I was really pretty proud of myself. I got on my truck, immediately drove from there to Columbus, Ohio, had dinner with some friends, spent the night at a friend's house, got in the truck the next morning, and about 11:30, and I drove to Hopewell Culture, which is an Indian burial mound place south of Columbus, about an hour in Chillicothe, Ohio. And I set up there. It was a pretty hot, humid day. Found a beautiful tree to set up underneath. Park rangers there were fantastic. Got 24 QSOs, so I activated it. Jumped in the truck, drove to Cincinnati, stayed overnight at some friend's house. Next morning, went down to the William Howard Taft. President William Howard Taft was born in Cincinnati, I believe, and he grew up there and they had a beautiful house in Mount Auburn. I drove by it 1,000 times when I lived in Cincinnati. Never once did I pull in the driveway, the parking lot. Well, by gosh, I did it this time. So I got, the bands were were not so good that morning, but I got 15 QSOs, which was awesome. The following day was the reunion. Saturday was kind of an off day, but I took my sister and myself, we decided to run quickly up to Xenia, Ohio, which is where the Hamvention, Dayton's going to be next year. But and there's a house there. It's a really neat little farmhouse right on a main road. And Charles Young, anybody know who Charles Young was? Very cool. This is another one of the cool things about this event is that you're going to learn a lot about the history of our country and see some really beautiful places. So Charles Young was this officer in the Army, an African American, and he started the Buffalo Soldiers. And this is where he lived. It was kind of, in this crazy house in Xenia, Ohio. So I activated it, got 18 contacts, both a mixture of CW and single sideband. Sunday was kind of an off day, so now I had been gone a week, and I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 activations. So Monday morning, get up early and drive to south of Pittsburgh, really kind of a cool place called Fort Necessity. So it's the only place, if I read this sign right, where George Washington was defeated in a battle and had to surrender, believe it or not. But it was not during the American Revolutionary War. He was an officer. He was an officer in the British Army, believe it or not. I mean, but he got his butt kicked there by the French and the Indians. So they didn't kill him. But it's a funky little place, a funky little park. But they had a beautiful picnic area where you could set up and do it. So I then got in the truck and drove for another hour, maybe hour and a half, and right around dinner time I ended up in Somerset, Pennsylvania. And Somerset, Pennsylvania is the closest big town to Flight 93. It's west of Shanksville, and if you're going to get a motel or whatever, you're going to go to Somerset. I can tell you right now, that's where you're going to go. So same thing, and it's about a half an hour, 40-minute drive from there back to Flight 93. So I had decided that Tuesday I was going to get there early once again. I absolutely wanted to be the only person on the Memorial Plaza, and I accomplished that goal by getting there at about 7:30 in the morning. And I just kind of sat there for about a half an hour and reflected, and it was just wonderful. I can only imagine what that place is like in the middle of October. So if you're looking, if you're looking for a really kind of a neat 3-day trip from New Hampshire, you don't have anything to do in October, go to the Flight 93 Memorial. Okay, well that was a record day for me. And that was the day that took me 1 or 2 levels up in the hobby. Flight 93, if you're a chaser in this hobby, so this is supposed to be a fun event, this National Parks on the Air thing, and it is. But I think with these events, there are certain people, they have a very competitive personality, and there are people within this event that want to they want to get the most points, or they want to activate the most parks, whatever, it doesn't matter. We're all having fun. Well, Flight 93 is a very rare unit because prior to me going there, it had only been activated 6 times. And some of these places, as you know, Frank, been activated 30, 40, 50 times. There are 2-3 activations a week at some of them. So it had been well publicized that I was going to be there. Well, all hell broke loose when I got on the air. And for 2.5 hours, I clawed my way through both CW pileups and single sideband. And it was just exhilarating. It was really exhilarating. And I learned something. If you want to get involved either as an activator or a chaser, here's the tip if you're an activator, if you decide you're going to go out. So don't freak out about the pileup. Let the pileup happen. Let everybody yell their call sign. But the smart, where's Barry at? You already know what I'm going to say here. Mm-hmm. The smart chasers, they let everybody claw at each other. And then right when they can, that 10th of a second or 20th of a second that they can tell it's going to die down, they then throw their call sign out. Well, that's who I went after. Like I was just cherry picking. It's really simple. So I learned early on that I'm not going to get all stressed out about the pileup. Another tip I did, if you're going to activate, and this is much easier to do on single sideband than on CW, but I made the announcements. Remember, you're in control as the activator. You're running the party. This is not field day. It's not insanity. It can be if you let it get out of hand. But I told everybody, hey guys and gals, I'm going to stay here as long as possible to work all of you. I know the band can go up and down, but just be patient. Don't all try to give your call sign at once, and I will work you. And that seemed to work really well. And it lowered the stress level during the pileups. So, but 113, I did 113 QSOs in just 2.5 hours. We'll do questions in a little bit, just a second. But here's the cool thing about that day. So I had prior to setting this whole trip up, the ARRL also started a National Parks on the Air Facebook page. And I'm here to tell you, I know some of you may not do Facebook. I get it, I understand why, whatever. But I'm here to tell you that Facebook page has magic in it. And it's made some incredible friendships. And I have made 2 new friends, at least 2 new friends, as part of that Facebook page. And one of them is a young woman named Emily Saldana. I got to pronounce her name right, so it's a Spanish name. Saldana. Sorry, Emily. and her husband, Keith Comp. So Emily is very active on, if you've seen the page, you know how active Emily is.
Sure. Yeah.
And I don't know about you, but months ago, when I saw how active she was, I just said to myself, I have got to meet this woman.
Contagious.
She's just, her enthusiasm is contagious, and she's really lucky. So she's a paramedic, and she's a supervisor for this rural paramedic. She kind of does a lot like, I think, what you do, Alita. And she's able, because she lives in this rural community, and she's very close to the firehouse. She's able to work out of her home. And if they get a call, she just races right to the ambulance, whatever. She doesn't have to be at the firehouse. And anyway, so she's able to be on the air like all the time and on Facebook, and she's just encouraging everybody. And so fast forward, I decided, you know what? I got nothing to lose. All they can say is no. I talk to people on elevators. I talk to strangers on elevators. That's who I am. You know what? So I just thought, I'll just reach out to this woman and see if she wants to get together for an ice cream or whatever, as I'm traveling to Pennsylvania. To make a long story short, she agreed. She asked her husband. We activated the Appalachian Trail together, all three of us. So I got in my truck after Flight 93. It's like I'm looking at my watch going, man, I got to be. So I had to leave Flight 93 at noon on that Tuesday to be able to get to where I would meet Emily and her husband so we could activate the Appalachian Trail that afternoon. And we found there was a beautiful spot where the trail crossed over this hayfield, and within the 100-foot boundary of where you have to activate, you have to be within 100 feet of the trail, there was this beautiful tree that we could get the antenna up in, and we did it. And so I only did 14 there. I could have done a lot more, but I didn't want to eat up all the contacts and not leave any for Emily and her husband. So all three of us were able to successfully activate it. And it was just an epic trip. I mean, I had a total of 279 QSOs. So I probably hadn't done 279 QSOs in my life before that. So I'm serious. I'll ask Jim Clute if you don't believe me. So, but here's the thing you need to know. Everything that I needed to do this whole deal is sitting right here on the table. In other words, you don't need a lot of equipment. In other words, here's my crazy wire antenna, here's the string that we get it up in the tree with, my battery, my Elecraft KX3. I've got a nice little Samsung tablet that I used in the hotel at night to create the ADIF file to be able to upload the Logbook of the World. So you don't need to take a giant marine battery with you. In other words, I'm able to do 279 QSOs, to your point, Barry, earlier presentation, on 10 watts or less. So a lot of fun. I mean, it's a lot of, it was exhilarating. I mean, I could talk about it for another hour, but I'm not going to. I'm not going to bore you. I'll take some questions. But I'm going to repeat the questions for the purpose of the video. So anybody who's got questions about this wonderful event, who would like to do it? We still have 5 months left, by the way. The event runs year long. It started January 1st, runs till December 31st. There's tons of places in Massachusetts, down near Boston. There's Cape Cod. There's, you can go to Acadia.
Yeah.
You can go right across the river from St. Gaudens to that Rockefeller place.
Yeah.
Which I'm going to do, but I'm not going to do it this week. But so if you're looking for something to do this fall, it's just fun. I mean, it's a fun way, and it really is going to improve your skills. And if you're doing Facebook, if you do Facebook, I encourage you to go find, it's just called ARRL National Parks on the Air is how you find it. And just kind of lurk. I mean, just look and see what's happening. And if that enthusiasm on that page doesn't infect you, nothing will. There's no hope for you, is all I can say. So who's got questions? John, you had a question earlier.
Yes, anybody that's older than 62, and maybe some of you already have it, you can get a National Parks card for $10 and apply for it. Or if you go into any national park, buy one. It's $10, and a lot of parks are expensive, but if you have one of these, you end up going in for free. You can have a carload of people, you're still in for free. We pay for it. So
yeah, so
It doesn't expire.
it's just called the Senior Pass.
no, this doesn't expire. It's $10. You can do it online, or if you know you're going to the national park, you can do it there. Summer months are very busy and applications are taking place to save yourself time, but it's a worthy thing to get.
Yeah, so I have one. So it's $10. John was talking about the senior pass from the National Park Service. It's really, if you're 62 or older, it's an incredible deal. I mean, for all the years that we've paid taxes, you bet I'm going to take advantage of this. It's a lifetime. You pay one time, pay $10, and it lets you in any national park property. It lets you in Corps of Engineers property. There's probably 1,000 places that you can get in, and you even get discounted rates on certain things there. So if you're going to start to activate or do these things, absolutely get this. It's called the Senior Pass. Any other questions? Yeah, Dick.
Yeah, could you just hold up and show and describe the radio you use?
Okay, yes, I will. The radio. So the radio I used, it's my dream radio. I'll be right back there. So Elecraft KX3. So if you, this in my opinion is the Mercedes-Benz, Lexus, Rolls-Royce of QRP radio. Yeah, you don't want to drop it. They just came out with, they announced it in Dayton, the KX2 family. So it is smaller than this. It does not go up to 15 watts, I don't think, and it doesn't have the roofing filters. But this radio has got an internal tuner. It works any band from 6 meters all the way to 160, and off that 29-foot wire with a 9-to-1 unend. So, I mean, it's I can work any band I want when I'm at one of these National Parks on the Air event, and I don't, so it's a heck of a radio, is all I can tell you. Any other questions about this great event? Yes, Barry?
Do you need any particular permission ahead of time, or is every park different, or what's your recommendation?
You mean to
go in and activate that particular park?
So the ARRL has created this special section at the ARRL website about national parks on the air. They have all the units listed. Some of the units have different levels of sensitivity. Most of them are not sensitive at all, but some of them have a one red asterisk, and a couple of them, like Flight 93, have a double red. And when any of those sensitive ones, you have to contact the rangers ahead of time and talk to them about what you're going to do and what the plans are. You can't it would be a bad idea just to show up. But at St. Gaudens, every single time we've gone there, we just show up. And I did, if you remember, I don't know, maybe I talked about it, I did 3 activations back in April and May when I went out west on a trip with my daughter. And that was a lot of fun. I did Yosemite, I did Death Valley, and I did Joshua Tree. Same thing, I activated all 3 of those, but same thing, at those big parks, I never saw a ranger, much less asked for permission. So
talk about National Mall. You read about activating National Mall?
Stuart Thomas. So there's one of the guys in National Parks in the Air. His name's Stuart Thomas, and he's the male version, in my opinion, of Emily.
Yeah.